All right, let's get this. Yeah, we'll pin that up. All right. So the moon is in Leo. The moon is in Leo. Welcome, welcome. When it entered, it went into a direct opposition with Pluto. And I said we'd have some banging news today. In fact, I put the horoscopes out early on Patreon and the Crunch Report because I knew the minute the moon would move into Pluto, we would see something unprecedented because we have never observed transits to Pluto and Aquarius before. So thank you for tapping the screen. That helps people see us. I'm excited because I'm not going to lie, it's really stressful to give public predictions. And in June of 2022, I gave predictions about former President Trump and what I thought might happen. And I did that for patrons. There's a pinned post in my Patreon with that podcast that I recorded in June. It's time-stamped, which is where I have it pinned and I publish my predictions, right? I publish a lot of them on Patreon. Sometimes I talk about them on my podcast, but everything is time-stamped. And it is unnerving to give a public prediction, especially one that far out. So even I was sitting here, in fact, I talked about it on my podcast. I'm like, okay, if it comes in like April 1st, I don't want to hear it because that was a very, that was a hard prediction to make. So yay, relief. I'm celebrating, not going to lie. That's a lot. We also had the reversal of the papal bull that gave the right to invade other countries and force conversion. So it's been a banner day. It's been a banner day. Thank you for all the hearts. Thank you for the likes. Happy Indictment Day. Happy Indictment Day. I thought about making popcorn, but not. Right at the end of the month, though. Right at the end of the month. I was like, come on. When you make a public prediction, but it was based on the astrology and all I could do was trust the astrology. But I'm not going to lie, it's very exciting. So, now, if you're wondering where that prediction is, I have some snippets of it down my page here on TikTok, but that is actually a patron-only podcast I recorded in June of 2022. And so it's kind of funny because everybody's like, well, we knew we'd get in trouble. You didn't in June. Go back and look at some of my old posts from last year, and people were wringing their hands and saying nothing was ever going to happen. So no, people didn't. We didn't even have the January 6th committee hearings yet. Okay. So yeah, which is why I made that prediction then, and I went through it. And what you're hearing on that patron-only podcast, and if you're a patron and you haven't listened to it, it's there. It's a pinned post in Patreon. I'm going through his charts. I looked at his natal chart. I looked at his progress chart. And I know there's this Twitter astrologer, I don't know their name, but they were saying he's going to be president again. I kept hearing that a lot last spring, and I was like, there's no way he's going to be president again. And I kept looking at his astrology. I'm like, nope. So now, will he see jail? Now, this is the funny thing, because people have misinterpreted what I said, saying I didn't see jail time. No, I see a conviction. I'm not sure that he does jail time because I'm not sure he lives long enough. Okay. That's not wishing anything, but his health is in question. And so he might, but maybe it's that he doesn't serve out a full sentence because, and again, he might get a lot of time too, and it's impossible to serve that. But he will never be president again. That is very, very certain in the astrology. And that is something I will say all day long. So you don't have to. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have to worry about other despots. I mean, obviously, when we look at what's going on politically, we have Pluto in Aquarius. This is the time for people to organize. We cannot equate Pluto and Aquarius to the French Revolution, and let me tell you why. All those people are making false correlations. Number one, Pluto was not in our consciousness, and astrology is based on our perceptions from here on the planet, okay? So if you couldn't see it, it had a very subtle influence. What was going on when the French Revolution started is Uranus had just moved into Leo, and that disrupted monarchy. Okay. And Uranus is the planet of revolution. You can't always equate the planet to a sign's quality. They have interplay. But what Pluto is about transformation. And in this case, Aquarius is society. And we have it in Aquarius for a very brief point of time, 2 months here. And so you're noticing people are collectivizing. The frustrations of the people are spilling out. And we're watching institutions that are not being of service to the general whole, to the collective good, erode. If they don't have a strong foundation, they go, whether it's a bank, a government, a department, a store, any kind of institution, an educational institution. If you don't have a foundation, it goes. And so we're ending up the Pluto in Capricorn era while we get a sneak peek of the Pluto in Aquarius era. So it's exciting times. And if you're new here, welcome, welcome. I'm Lori Rivers. I've been a practicing professional astrologer for 3 decades. And yes, I do professional readings. You can find that, my podcast, which is sponsored by my patrons. Thank you, guys. And man, we're just moving forward on that. So thank you to patrons. We are well into the 3% of global rankings. No, we're edging towards that 1% of global rankings, any category. And granted, the difference between the top of that 1% and the bottom of that 1% is a very large gap, but I'll take it. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't listened to my podcast, go ahead. You can check it out by the link in the bio there here on TikTok. Patreon is also linked up. And I want to celebrate, and I see Casey there, Casey, moderator Casey, or other mods. I didn't see you because Casey has a really identifiable profile picture that I can see. It's bright. But if you would put the 20% off discount, if you're not a patron, okay, because patrons get juicy discounts. If you're not a patron, then you can save 20% on readings and workshops. I've got a full moon workshop coming up this Sunday. It is by the light of the moon. It's a full moon ceremony. I give a workshop at the beginning that's recorded where I go over the mundane events. And I think given the indictment he'll be a rain next week. They said maybe Tuesday. I'm wondering because we do have that full moon on the 5th evening on the West Coast and the 6th morning on the East Coast. And I'm wondering if it doesn't kind of lend into that area. I haven't looked at all of the astrology, but that just kind of popped into my head when I read a headline. I haven't had time to look at the astrology yet, but I do the full moon workshop first, where I talk about the collective events, the mundane events, and then how it will impact you as the full moon moves, through the different houses in the chart. Okay. If you're a patron, I have the walkthrough video. I'll try to get that up tonight on YouTube. So I gave early access to my patrons, and then I'll put it up on YouTube. And it's a visual walkthrough on how to identify the parts of your chart. It has really great moving arrows and moving circles, and really helps you understand your astrology chart and what it is. Okay. So that's it. Yes. Happy Indictment Day, guys. I called it. Told ya. Kiss my accuracy. But yeah. And, it's a good time to be a mundane astrologer, but I do all forms of astrology. Okay. I'm an applied, evolutionary astrologer, and you can't be a good astrologer if you don't understand mundane astrology too. And that was my teacher's belief that taught me astrology way back in the 90s. And he was like, you have to learn it all if you want to be good, because you can't help a client with their timing if you don't understand it. And so thank you, William, for teaching me astrology back in 95. But yeah, super excited. Not going to lie, feeling a little pleased with myself. And I also am not going to lie, I was starting to get nervous because I was like, but it's there. Why isn't it being announced? It was clear as day. Why isn't it being announced? And I was like, if this thing comes in on April 3rd or something, I'm going to be so mad. But yay. So, oh my God, nerve-wracking when you give a public prediction like that. So, and I have a Virgo South node, so the idea of being wrong in public is just like, bleh, bleh. So yeah. Hey there. Right? Yeah, super good. In fact, I hired a booking agent to get on podcasts, and we're just getting started. And they just sent me my one sheet. And this afternoon, I sent him an email. I'm like, one more thing to add. I called the indictment. That'll get me on a podcast. But yeah, so, and this is the type of thing I have zero problem being right about. I hate being right about bad weather. I hate being right about, violent events. I hate being right about, natural disasters. That stuff just eats me up on the inside. This feels good. So I feel just fine about this. And I love that it was for business fraud. I love 34 counts of business fraud. Good. Because I that was my argument the whole time he was running. Like, he's not good at business. I mean, Banksy wouldn't even lend him money in the 90s because he was too much of a risk. So, for relatively small development loans, for development stuff, And so, but people are like, no, I'm like, so you think ripping people off is a good business strategy, do you? Okay. I don't hold that belief. I have two passions, astrology and business, because I like to empower the little guy. Which, speaking of, I think one of the reasons they're going after this app is there are 5 million small businesses. These aren't necessarily brick and mortar. These are people like me. These are people like you who have been able to leverage organic interaction and connection in niche areas. Okay. And that means we're not working for a corporation. And they don't like people being independent. They make it actually harder to be independent. All of the rules, when they talk about small business, government-wise, they're talking about people, it's a form of like an LLC that makes $25 million. Go read the Small Business Administration's website and you'll be like, what? But I'm a service provider. How do I do that? So I have two passions, which is helping people be empowered, whether you're finding a career you enjoy or just finding your happiness. That's my number one. Be happy. I don't care what you do. Just be happy. And if I can help you find that, brilliant, at least satisfied. But my other, so astrology and business and helping people do things they love and be creative, even if it's a side gig. Without hustle, because I don't believe in hustle culture. I honestly don't hustle. Okay. I do a lot because I like to do a lot of things, but I'm not hustling. I set up a really good system for myself that took me years and years to learn because I'm self-taught. I didn't go to school to learn how to run businesses. I went to school for international relations and cultural anthropology. So when I first started, I didn't know nothing. I was really good at analysis. I was really good at what I knew. I'm a really good astrologer, but nobody, even when I was learning how to be an astrologer, they didn't teach you the business of it. So I'll be teaching more classes to help people do better and start things and do it with some confidence, including referring you out to really good resources that already exist. So you're not paying business coaches 20 grand. Which won't necessarily help you learn what you need to learn. So I'm excited about that. The first one of those classes is Marketing Magic, where I show you how to connect authentically using your own astrology chart. And that comes up April 22nd. And so you can save 20% on that. If you're not a patron, if you're a patron, then I'll give you a very special discount for that. So hold tight. If you're on my email list, you got a 33% on that. But if you're new here and you don't want to be a patron and what have you, and just want to save 20% on readings, have at it. Good evening. Happy Indictment. You thinking about getting a reading, but can I talk about the process? Sure. So you show up on Zoom. I pull up your chart, or one of the astrologers pulls up your chart. Now they spend hours prepping. I'm kind of past that stage in my career. I'm quite able to just assess a chart because I developed those skills. And if it's a natal reading, there's not a lot of interaction. We tell you about you. If it's an astro energies reading, I'm looking at the like close future, the next 3 months, okay? And that's when I'm looking at the transit. What area is up on deck the most? And I can ask what you want out of the reading, because I like to know, like, the most useful things you can do is think beyond, I need to make money, I want a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a them friend. You know, those are not useful questions. They're really not. Of course, we're always worried about our finances. Of course, we're always worried about, you know, relationships. But that limits the reading. Okay, it limits the reading. So like today I had a career life path reading, which is very consultative. And I always start, even some of my natal readings, I'll start with a quick look if I see any major transits. Okay, so if I see a big Saturn transit or a big Pluto transit, I'll point out, like, and so this person got some ease because Pluto has moved into Aquarius, and I was like, hey, you're probably feeling a lot better, but you've been working on these issues. And they were like, okay, yeah. And I said, yeah, well, that's at the foundation of everything, even your career, even your relationships. You know, what you've been working on is going to help you grow forward. So now that being said, what do we want to cover? And so we actually talked about strategies, and those strategies helped throughout their life. And I pointed out, because they also have a transit happening to the North Node there, really what this was forcing them to do and why it was so uncomfortable to go there. So it's very consultative when you're with me. I do give timing and I will give exact predictions. So I've had law students come in getting ready for internships, and they'll talk about, you know, a couple different fields, and I'll be like, I don't think you're going to get the internship in that. I think you're going to get it in this. And they'd be like, no way, that's really competitive. I'm like, yeah, but I think that's where you're going to go. In one case, the person had applied to multiple different internships and thought they would probably get placed in the family services court, but got placed in social justice, like I had called. And I was like, no, I think you're going to social justice. I think that's where you're going. And they were like, no, I don't think so. And sure enough, it was, you know, civil rights. So that was pretty cool, you know. So that's the kind of thing that we do. I am a very old school astrologer, which is very different when people say they're a traditional astrologer. They're talking about Hellenist astrology, which is a modern interpretation of ancient documents that were found. Okay. I know exactly what Project Hindsight was, and I think it's a wonderful academic project. Okay. And I studied under astrologers who were part of that project, mind you. Okay. However, the math evolved in the 11th century. Okay. And so did astrology. So all those people kind of dissing medieval astrology, I just don't think they've really studied deeply into it, because it's a field of study. It's built upon itself. You don't throw out advances in understanding. Now, granted, there was a fair amount of superstition that you have to wade out as well. Okay. In all cases. So, but when I say I'm a traditional astrologer, that means I've developed skills in consulting. So I have a lot of certifications in different facilitation techniques, in different kind of communication techniques, coaching and facilitation and coaching primarily, but also communication styles. Because my job is to communicate the horoscope to you. My job is to translate the astrology. You don't have to know anything about astrology to have a very, very good reading with me. My job is to be the astrologer. If you want to learn about astrology, then you want to take classes, and I offer those as well. I have some recorded classes up in my link page. I have one on love and sexuality in the astrology chart, which is honestly, I even cover asexuality in there. Okay, because we're talking about what love is versus sexuality. They are not the same thing. If you read the old astrology textbooks, because they were written by guys in the 70s, that they're acting like it's one and the same, and it's not. There's different ways. Even the Greeks had 5 different kinds of love, and we kind of talk about that and where it is in the astrology chart and how you really have to feed this first. Okay, in order to have any kind of satisfying relationship. So those are the kinds of things that I teach. Also, like I said, I'll be teaching some astrology and business classes, because I think going forward, especially in the Pluto and Aquarius era, it's very, very important that people either form workers' cooperatives and or have independent businesses that are very tightly linked up with other people's. And I'm going to kind of show that and model that this week on the podcast. I have invited another TikToker who I admire very, very much. They're a spiritual teacher, and I really want to help spread the word. Now, I want to help them move into doing their vision and purpose as well. They are a remarkable teacher, and I'll announce more about that once we have it in the can. So, but we'll be doing that recording. And so instead of moving through the competitiveness of business, like the crush your enemies, blah, blah, very Martian, Venus rules business, not Mars. And that's why our system is unhealthy. Again, it's very patriarchal. And Venus is a magnet, okay? Now, a magnet can draw things to it, but if it is programmed in a different way, it can repel, right? Have you ever played around with magnets? They can repel. And so our society is so Martian, and globally with patriarchy, it's so Martian, things are out of balance. And so cooperation, collaboration, small, tight, efficient groups who are interlinked with other groups, that can all move us forward and do some good on the planet, not just for our species, but all of the species and our environment. And it's a long run. We've got 20 years, plus once Pluto moves into Aquarius for good. Now, I am not a popular astrologer, and a lot of the astrology that you run into to me is inaccurate astrology, and I look like a real bitch when I'm talking about it. But it's just not accurate. It gives like a cardboard cutout view. It's not giving you the keys from the universe to unlocking the self you came here to be, which isn't living in your full potential. Because if you reach your full potential and perfection, all there is entropy after that, right? It's a constant unfolding and a becoming of self as long as you're alive, as long as you're breathing. And breathing is what we're here to do. That's what spirit means. Spirit is breath. That is why life starts at the first breath. Not only is that biblically, it's older than the Bible. Okay? So everybody assumes spirit is outside of the physical, but it isn't. It is what makes the physical life possible, is the spirit inside. And that it means breath. Okay? Go look up the Latin definitions. Okay? And they're older than that. So this is what's important to remember. So a blend of philosophy, practical applications, like business. We've been trained that if you're spiritual, you shouldn't be good at that, right? That leaves jerks in charge. Okay? Just like if you're spiritual, I'm above politics. Really, that's how we get really bad people in charge, guys. So we have to be active. In fact, in the Discord today, there was a writing and phone banking activity in our Awake Space Discord hosted by Casey and the mods. And there were some people who showed up to write letters or emails and make phone calls to their representatives. Thank you so much, guys. Ooh, let me see what this was. Oh, thank you. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much. I love those flowers. Oh my God, a disco ball. My Gemini Venus is just going to be blingy, blingy, blingy. I get so distracted with those bling blings. But anyway, it's like the magpie, like shiny. But anyway, the Patreon Discord is just fantastic. And if you guys couldn't make the writing and call party, I'll be getting out some templates and links that Casey collected. And she really cares about making a difference. She prefers to organize in different ways and take more direct action. But this is kind of where we're at about the Restrict Act, which is an egregious offense to our democracy. Well, what's left of it. What's left of our democracy. We're kind of at a last stand, but I think people have had it, and I think people are showing up. I mean, look at those kids in Tennessee. Look at them. Good for them. Our children should not have to stand up for their right to safely be educated. And yet there they are. There they are. And good for them. We need more of that. And it was peaceful. It was loud, but it was peaceful. And that is the essence that we need to lean into. That's right. Good old Gen Z. That's right. So, and we need people putting pressure on the federal government, their state reps, their state senators, their governors, your local officials as well. And you need to run for local office. If you've been feeling that call, you need to. This is Pluto in Aquarius. What does this have to do with astrology? Everything. Astrology and politics go hand in hand. They always have. Astrologers have always been the counselors of kings, queens, generals, emperors, priests, business people, and still are. Right? So there we go. Oh, I'm trying to... Is Russia, China, and Mexico going to invade the U.S.? No. Have you ever played Risk? Have you ever played Risk? No one's going to invade this any more than we're going to invade Mexico. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, we honestly really don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Have you ever played Risk? Play Risk. You'll find out why. Everybody's always worried about it. But it's okay when we invade other countries, right? You wonder why people don't like us? Travel the world. Travel the world. Travel the world. You'll find out. This is my celebratory. I don't drink soda very often, but I am tonight because I called the indictment in June of 2022. It is a pinned post in my Patreon. So, yeah. So, we're not getting invaded. Do you know how hard it would be to hold this country? Now I'm a political analyst by training. Do you know how hard it would be to geographically hold this country? We can't hold this country, to be honest. Why do you think we have military bases all over this country? Because we would not. We had to commit genocide to hold this landmass. So I'm not worried about that. What's going on will be economic. We're not going to see World War III. But yeah. Yeah. No, I have not gone over BRICS. I have not. You know, honestly, what I'm really wanting to do is talk about things that are way... As much as I'm a political analyst, my job is to empower you. And I think it's really easy to get really, really heady. Okay? What I want is people leaving the corporate world and forming workers' co-ops. What I want is an economic revolution in this country. Okay, that's what I want to talk about. I want people joining together to make their communities better. I think we can talk about the heady stuff all day long, but at the end of the day, it's a distraction away from what you can feasibly do. But I can look at BRICS. I have not had time. Okay, I have not had time. So, yeah. Bartering is not the answer. I'm going to tell you right now. I completely hated money in my 20s and 30s, especially after seeing what multinational corporations, not all of them are American owned, by the way. The Dutch, the British, the French, like Nestle is a French company, guys. Unilever is a Dutch company, Royal Dutch Shell. Okay, everybody, they do plenty of bad stuff. Let me tell you, and so do our companies. We're not blameless, but it's not just our corporations, okay? And when I saw what they did in other countries, and that I was complicit by birth, just by breathing, I disenfranchised myself out of, I just was done. But later in life, I didn't get more conservative. I actually realized I'd been played. You get played in spiritual circles by religion, especially Christianity, of, oh, those rich guys go to hell. Don't worry, you're virtuous. You'll go to heaven in the afterlife. Well, we're not here to be in an afterlife. We're here to live now, in this moment. And when you let yourself be disenfranchised, you let the people at the top who are jerks, you let the Bezoses, you let the Zuckerbergs, you let the BlackRock securities, you let the Mitt Romneys, trust me, he's not blameless. You let the Deutsche Bank, you let them win. Okay? We hold the cash. They hold debt. Why do you think interest rates rose? It was, right? It was a cash grab. So with the Pluto and Aquarius era, what we need to do, and we've got a 2-month window to like see how things are going to go, write down our notes, take notes, because remember, June 11th, Pluto slides back into Capricorn. This is a good thing because we need more failures of institutions who do not serve. Okay, but we need to build new institutions and smaller, tighter, more community-minded groups. But that means we need to learn the skills. You can't act like it's the 1960s, man. It didn't work in the 60s either. Those dudes sold out, right? Trust me, I've known a lot of hippies in my day. Who do you think were my mentors? Bartering isn't always equal. And we will not see cash go away until the Pluto and Taurus era. I will be long croaked by that point. Okay? Because Pluto stays in Aquarius for 21 years. Okay? After it ingresses for good in the end of November of 2024. Then in 2068, Pluto ingresses into, then it moves into Pisces. Then in 2068, it moves into Aries. It stays there for 30 years, and then it moves into Taurus. During the Pluto and Taurus era, you will see a reworking of economy. You will probably see cash change. You'll see fiat currencies change. We're in the beginning of that. Barter is not always fair. If you do not understand your value, okay, then you will not make a good trade for yourself. It will be the same thing as spending money, okay? And one person's going to get a better deal than another. I know, I've bartered, okay? But if you don't know your value, if you're like, oh, I know I made this incredible thing, but it's just something I do, and you don't value that, okay? That's what happens with fair trade sometimes, right? Everybody loves the idea of fair trade, but people go to a developing nation, they meet somebody who's really good at weaving, and they're like, oh my God, that's so good. Oh, you normally make 10 cents a piece? Well, we'll give you 25 and call it fair. And the person's like, cool, I got 25, that's great. Not realizing it's being sold for 100. Right? So we want to see more profit sharing. We want to see, that's what I do with my astrologers. When I run a half off sale for my astrologers to get readings, I make nothing on that. Nothing. I get nothing out of that. They get their share. I take the hit on the discounts. Why? I want them to gain experience. I want them to take their knowledge out in the world. I want them to carry on the legacy of the knowledge they've gained from me and the time they've spent with me. I want them to get something out of that, okay? That's why I don't offer 50% off their readings very often, right? Because at the end of the day, I still have to pay taxes. I still have to, do the administrative stuff, right? So, it's understanding. So we need to understand the mechanisms and reshape them, because Pluto is about reshaping. Make sense? So, yeah. More cults arising during Pluto and Aquarius? No, I don't think we'll see more cults. No. Maybe communes. More likely to see cults forming in the next 2 years with Saturn and Pisces. But I do think we'll see completely a reordering of religion when Pluto enters Pisces in like 2044. I think that might be when we see a complete reordering of that. But no, I don't think we'll see more cults with Pluto and Aquarius. Aquarius has nothing to do with that. But that's why it's really important to deconstruct your religious training, deconstruct your cultural training, deconstruct your social training. You're not going to get it all. It takes a long time. I've been deconstructing for decades. You still find stuff. You still find internalized misogyny, internalized racism, internalized nationalism, internalized supremacy, all of those things. You will continually be unpacking that throughout a lifetime because, again, we're not here to be perfect. We're here to unfold. That's a beautiful thing, right? So anyway, welcome if you're just joining. I am the astrologer that called the Indictment. I'm super jazzed about that. I was getting nervous. Oh, that's great. Thank you. I love this. They just come out of nowhere. It's like, woo. But yeah, I was sitting there when I was recording the podcast last Sunday. I was just like, okay, come on, Indictment. But yeah, it was great. I was in a reading and I just got out of the reading and my phone dinged. It was a text from a client and they were like, here it is. And I'm like, yes. So very excited. Very excited. So yeah. Yeah, Roe v. Wade. Yeah. Well, sadly, I called Roe v. Wade before I was ever an astrologer. We were fighting in the 80s when I was a teenager and in the 90s as a young adult trying to force a codification because a precedent at the Supreme Court wasn't enough. You know, it wasn't secure. And we knew these right-wingers existed and we knew. And what was sad is we could see the plan. And a lot of the establishment Democrats would be like, oh, no, they're just crazy people. They'll go away. And we're like, they're not going away. And the establishment politicians wouldn't listen. We were too radical because we wanted things like common decency. We were too radical because, you know, we felt that women should be codified as human beings. And we were too radical because we believed people deserved fair housing and safe housing and the ability to have food and decent wages. But, you know. So, don't let anybody tell you you can't criticize the sitting president, because you sure as hell can. But yeah, I used astrology for the prediction. Yes. Can I explain what? Explain my methods? No. This is how I make my living. No, I don't explain my techniques. However, I talked through the astrology in my Patreon. So in the recording that I put up for patrons, I talked through the astrology I was reading. But I do not explain how I make my predictions unless I'm teaching professional students attached to me. It's my bread and butter. You want to be like me when you grow up? Thank you. Out of the career reading, yeah, open your mind about what career actually means and understand that it's about calling and how you're seen in the world, you know. Be open to there being more than one direction. Really feel into what it is that you really, really want. Like, how would it feel? Or what would the experience of being satisfied be like? And don't argue for your limitations. You know, don't be like, well, I've always just done it this way. That, I won't argue with you. So, you know, but I will argue for your success. If I see something in there and I'm like, hey, you need to try this. And you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm shy. I'm like, well, it's time to get over that. I'm terribly shy. I do things I don't like to do all the time. Like this. I don't like to be on camera. I hate it. I just shocked my mom the other day because she and my dad are coming out to California for a visit. And we're going to spend a week in April going to the San Diego Zoo and different botanical gardens because, I'm in my 50s, so hello, my parents are old, and I enjoy those places too. I'm a quieter person, and I was like, so I'm going to let you take pictures of me, Mom. And she was like, what? I'm like, I know, but I need pictures for my social media. And she was like, for real? Because almost all my pictures, even as a kid, it was either me giving the Scorpio rising death glare because I was reading a book. I mean, I cannot count the amount of pictures of me as a little kid going over the top of the book, like, leave me alone. Or like, I didn't like my picture being, I still don't. That's why, actually, if you look at my headshot, that is my I am uncomfortable and smiling for the camera face, because I did not know the photographer, although they were very good and I very much appreciate them. I didn't know them, and they came to my home, and it was whirlwind because they were being nice and they just were stopping by, but I didn't know them. So it's my, I don't know you and you're in my house face. Whereas if my daughter takes pictures, it's totally different. Or even the one of me laughing that I have from my podcast that you've seen in pictures, that was taken by Barbara Potter. She is she's actually in Nashville. And she won the country music awards for best photographer because she does a lot of album covers. I got to her before she was famous. But anyway, she did that for me. Like I said, I got to her right before she made it. But anyway, she's a great photographer. And I told her, if anything happens and I laugh, catch it, because I don't do that very often. And I was doing my clothes change. It was really freaking cold. That we did this in Washington. It was really freaking cold. And I was changing in the back of her SUV. And I had this necklace, and I didn't notice I broke it while I was putting on that pink dress, right? Because I did like 3 different, clothes change things. So this was the final one. It was 40 degrees and crystal clear cold. And I am in a sleeveless dress, already freezing, pretending to be comfortable to get this damn picture done. And I didn't know I broke my necklace, and I do not have a lot of chest. Okay. So I don't keep things in my brassiere. If I kept things in my brassiere, I'd lose them. Okay. I have plenty of booty. I just don't have much boob. So anyway, I'm standing there with my hands on my hips, doing my little model pose, and you hear ding, 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 as the necklace falls out of my bra. And I started to laugh because I was cold and I was uncomfortable, and I just threw my head back laughing because it was so funny. And she grabbed that picture, and that is my favorite picture of me, is me laughing, because I don't laugh like that very often. And it was ridiculous. I have a ridiculous sense of humor. And so it was just so funny. And she didn't catch the moment after I got done laughing and doing a belly laugh, I looked down. If you would have had a picture of both of us, we were staring at my feet and the beads that had fallen out of my bra. So that's just to go to say, sometimes we have to do stuff that we're not comfortable doing to get to where we want to go. Like RuPaul says it, if you want to be successful, wear a suit. And so, if I'm saying, hey, you are so focused in this area that you're actually driving away the thing you want to receive. I want you to go do something completely unrelated. Go get some bubbles and blow bubbles. Go do something ridiculous. If I tell you that, I'm not pandering. I'm actually giving you something to change the energy. And beyond being an astrologer with a background in political analysis, I am a metaphysician. I do a lot of energy work. Okay? That's why I do the guided meditations. I also channel, and yes, I'm psychic. One of the reasons I do professional astrology is I am very sensitive intuitively, and I don't really want to do psychic readings because I don't like to have to tune into people's energy. But it happens anyway in astrology readings because I'm naturally psychic. But I had really bad energy boundaries as a young person, and I'm a little gun shy. I mean, I have really great boundaries now, but it's just like this old habit. But it comes up in readings. Just yesterday, I had just a really strong impression, and it wouldn't shut up in my head. I kept seeing this picture of these certain kind of flowers in my head over and over and over. And I finally told the client, I'm like, okay, this isn't astrology, but I'm getting this visual and it won't shut up in my head. It just keeps coming and it's getting stronger and clearer. So I'm just going to mention it. If it's not relevant, I'm just passing on a message. I don't know who it is. I don't know what it's for. It's just here. And sure enough, it was something that mattered to them very much. And it was from something that they'd been thinking about. And it was just, they were like, okay, I need to do that thing. So that can happen in readings with me as well. And by the way, a couple of my astrologers are actually studying with medium Carrie Wilson, learning how to do evidentiary mediumship. Now, they may or may not do that professionally, but it will make them better astrologers. If you want to be a good astrologer, you have to understand a lot about a lot of different subjects, okay? Whether it's human development, understanding psychology, understanding politics, understanding history, business. Like me, my passion is business and human development. Like, how can I empower people, right? And not everybody's cut out to own a business, right? If somebody's tried and failed and they don't like it and it's, and I'll look at their chart and I'm like, should I have one? I'll be like, well, you do better in a partnership with somebody else, or you might do better at supporting a small workers cooperative, or you might enjoy working for a mom and pop business. Not everybody's going to own a business, right? But we will all interconnect in some way. Other people maybe just don't have the knowledge. I'll be like, well, do you know enough about it? Here's some resources to go study and go find out. So those are all the things. Hey, happy indictment night. He gonna get indicted. Now, here's something to understand. He hasn't been arraigned yet. He will be arraigned, and then he has to be tried. So an indictment just gets somebody charged. They still have to be tried. So there we go. But yeah, can't wait. Yeah. It is recorded. The lives are always recorded. If you guys want it up, well, I think this one will definitely go up on YouTube for sure. So, and I know, like, I've been asking patrons, like, I worry about emailing you guys too much, right? Because I get a lot of emails too, and I don't want to feel like I'm spamming you. And with between the horoscopes and the crunch reports, but getting different lives up. So this live I'll put up on YouTube because I think it's pretty good to celebrate, don't you? Yes. Called it. Nailed it. I was getting a little nervous. I was like, if this goes into the end of April, I'm going to be really mad. I mean, it still would have been pretty close considering I gave the prediction, back in June of 2022. But come on. I can't say kiss my accuracy if it doesn't happen like this. So, you like my emails? Okay, cool. Because I don't ever, that's my Libra Moon. I'm like, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to bother you. Okay. I can put up more. I always it feels really egotistical, not going to lie, because you just sit here staring at my face and it's, like I said, this is not my most comfortable. I really loved the last coffee with Lori when I had to drive because I was driving to be social for a rare occasion. And you guys were all talking to me. I loved that conversation. It was a real conversation. I have Venus and Gemini. I need to hear you. That fuels me. I like to hear your ideas and what inspires you and what excites you about life. I loved that you guys were sharing recipes and you were sharing experiences. And Emily shared that beautiful quote that I read on the podcast. That's the stuff of life. That's what makes my day. So, I know it can be intimidating to speak up, but the more you can use your voice, the more you can have an impact. You deserve to be seen and heard, and I like to see and hear you, well, mostly hear you because my eyes are shut. So, And that's why a lot of times, like in readings, sometimes I just close my eyes. I look at the chart and then I just close my eyes and I talk when I record the podcast. I think you guys noticed that when I did that one live stream, right, where I recorded the podcast and did a live stream, my eyes were closed, because I'm blind. I will close my eyes and I see things in my mind's eye, So, yeah. But yeah. How do we know what for sure? Oh, you're so welcome, Emily. Your star is rising. How do we know what? When I'm talking about the emails I'm sending, it is through Patreon. That's where I put those things up. But if you just want to join the email list, I'm going to be starting a newsletter that's going to be separate from Patreon. Patrons get the inside scoop. This will be more like broad astrological information, just broad stuff talking about, and then talking about the podcast, things like that. But it's a way, just in case we do lose the tiki-taki, which I don't think we will. I think we retain the tiki-taki, but just in case, I'm just going to put up I have to put up the goal or it just gets weird. But anyway, we're going to tap the screen too. No. All right. You're a Patreon and you get the moon emails. Those are horoscopes. So which ones do you get? Are you getting the crunch report or the horoscopes? Those happen. So did you look at the walkthroughs? Because it says rising or house, and that's where the moon is transiting through. I'll have to do another walkthrough. You get the crunch report. So how you read the crunch report is it's not for your chart. Not necessarily. I'm showing the pressure of each sign, and you have all 12 signs in your natal chart. That's just it's a general weather outlook. So it's more of the mundane, but also in your own chart where the pressure will be. And it's just pressure levels. It's like barometric pressure. That's it. It's not horoscopes. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. It's just in a general forecast. That's what it says. It even says it on the little writing up in the text box. You have all 12 signs in your chart. It's an astrological weather forecast. Yeah. But in that video, you guys get, I'm giving you kind of the lowdown of what to expect over the next couple of days. I do lunar transits. So the reason I'm bringing up the moon is the moon governs day-to-day activities. Okay. So everybody looks at those big outer planets. That's more existential. That's more big picture stuff. The moon governs the day-to-day details of life. So, and it does have causality. So that's why I was rushing this afternoon. I had other things I needed to do too, but I made sure I got the crunch report and the horoscopes out early before that Leo moon ingress, because this is the very first time in history we got to witness the moon in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. And I wasn't sure quite, I can give a good educated guess, but we've never observed it before. And so I wanted this out because I knew there'd be a big headline. There were several. So, yay. Also, if you're a patron and you haven't listened to the pinned post, that's the podcast that I did just for patrons back in June of 2022, where I did the rundown on Trump's astrology transits and how I thought things would go down. It's kind of funny to listen to. So, and I'm doing it's stream of consciousness as I'm looking at his charts and pulling up his charts. So, it's a nice little bit of history, don't you think? And before anybody says like, well, we knew. No, we didn't. Not in June of 2022. Everybody was wringing their hands. Go back and look at my old videos and look at all the comments. People didn't know. But yeah, I was starting to get a little like, hey, I said by end of March. It's at the end of March. Come on. And then the announcement came in. I was like, So yeah. That episode is pinned to the top of the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/awake space, it's a patron only piece of content that is pinned to the top of Patreon. So it is in Patreon. I kept it behind a paywall because if people were going to troll me, they were going to pay me. So I hate getting hit by Trumpers. If they want to hit me, they're going to have to pay me. And some did. I've gotten some smack talk on Instagram. Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm like, well, at least they paid me. So I don't get trolled for free. Oh, thank you. Right? I know when I told I'm a Patreon ambassador and we meet like once a month, all of the ambassadors with the Patreon staff, and we don't get like kickback. It's not like being a brand ambassador in that way. It's like we help make Patreon better for all of us. And it's a super cool program to be in. But when I told them what I did, I was like, if I'm going to get trolled, I'm going to get paid to get trolled. And they're like, oh my God, that's merch. If you're going to troll me, you're going to pay me. But yeah. Do I have anything in Leo? My midhaven. What do I see for Thursday? You talking about the full moon? I don't have the chart up in front of me right now. You like that one? Oh, thank you. That was a really nice live stream. That was not the day Pluto went into Aquarius, though. I have that one. The one where Pluto went into Aquarius, I was really fired up. I didn't put that one up. I have it saved, but I haven't put it up. I might put it up, but I kind of lost my shit. But I kind of knew I would. So, but yeah, the one from the other night was really, really nice. I thought it was just the loveliest. That was kind of like, I know people kind of enjoy it when I get fired up, but I'd rather be known for those moments of quiet calm because that's my aspiration. It's really easy for me to get fired up. But I like those moments of quiet calm. And I know it's not as sexy, but I think it's really important to understand it's that energy that will make the difference. It's really, anybody can get fired up and say, take it to the man, But for us to understand that very simple phrase that came out over and over, when we listen to one another, we can hear each other's heartbeats. How powerful is that? To humanize one another instead of dehumanizing each other. That's the legacy I want to leave. That's what I want to teach, is for people to see the humanness in one another. Because in all the travels I did as a young person, I saw so much more in common in our shared humanity than I did differences. The differences were in great part very cosmetic. Whether it was hair textures or skin colors or shapes of faces and bodies. Everybody, if they had a halfway decent relationship, not even the best relationships, everybody had a mom or a grandma who made their favorite kind of food. Everybody had a fun fact about where they were from. Everybody either loved or hated somebody in their family, Everybody just wanted a decent life somehow, some way, to be comfortable, whatever comfortable meant to them. Like, what that comfort meant might be different in a lot of ways. But just the way people would brag about their mom's cooking or their dad's cooking or their sister's cooking or their brother's cooking or their favorite little restaurant around the corner that had the best whatever it was. That shared experience of eating with one another. That being too hot and having a moment and passing a stranger a cup of water. It happens everywhere. And I have always had the best luck at meeting people. I've always met the kindest, nicest people wherever I traveled. And I was traveling before cell phones. There were a couple times where I dropped off the face of the earth and nobody knew where I was because of travel delays and things like that. But I always met the nicest people. Yeah, I met a few jerks here and there. But in general, I found that most people are just trying to get along in this world. They're just trying to figure out how to do tomorrow, you know? And people have hopes and dreams, and, you know, and if we can see that in each other, you know, then we have hope, you know, and when we forget, we make a difference just by the fact that we're breathing, you know, the fact that you're alive. You had a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being human on this planet, a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being human. That's a blessed thing. That in itself is a blessing. Maybe not always a mercy, but a blessing. And what do you do with it? You know, do we want to oppress ourselves with horrible thoughts about ourselves? I think that's a waste of time. You know, so if I can help you see the value in you, hopefully you'll see the value in others as well. But you can't really love anybody else till you love you. That's what I want to teach. And that is important. So when I talk about people being, you know, business owners or learning how to do marketing, or, which to me, marketing isn't a sleazy thing. It's connecting. It's just connecting. It's sharing a story. Sitting around the fire. Oh, thank you guys. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'll put some hearts on this. Tap, 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 tap. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you. So yeah, it was kind of fun. It's 7:44. I just saw it turn. That's cool. Came on early to celebrate. Right? Slay on the prediction, right? Slayed. I'll just walk sauntily. Yeah, there was a lot of yes. I was starting to get nervous because, you know, we're in the last 2 days of March, right? I was like, come on. I saw it in the astrology. Come on. I checked the chart. I'm like, no, I know it's there. Come on. Lord have mercy. That's why I said if it comes in the early part of April, don't go at me. I was close. Because I did that in June of 2022, man. Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's my astrologer. I so am. Thank you. What I plan to do, being so right. Well, what I did do is I emailed my booking agent. I've hired a booking agent to get on other podcasts. Because I'm kind of good at messaging, but I'm not very good at like the PR side, like reaching out to people and things like that. Because I'm always creating content. So anyway, I sent them an email and said, add to the one sheet. She's the astrologer that called the Indictment. So that's what I'm planning on doing, and teaching more. I'll get the master class up soon. We'll start that in May. I've been watching my own astrology and trying to figure out the best timing. What's going on? I'm celebrating calling the Indictment back in June of 2022. Making public predictions can be like, whew. So yeah. Oh, there's tons of indictments coming down. It's just I made that prediction. I made a lot of predictions about him back in June of 2022. It's up in my Patreon in the pinned post. I love that. I love that you're like, knew it. Right? I did. I got it. I did. I can't wait to get on other shows. So we just finished the one sheet up. And then I should be on about 4 different podcasts a month for a while. So I kind of signed up for this package. So it's a 24, podcast package. So And I'll certainly announce the podcasts I'm on. I will promote the snot out of that. So 100%. What else did I predict in the future? Honey, I got predictions all over the place. You got to go look. Those are not things I pull off the top of my head. In fact, a lot of times when I'm doing predictions, like in videos or like in seminars, it's like channeling. So even though I'm looking at the astrology, I don't hold it all in my head, because if I did, my head would just be full. So I have my year ahead seminar that I did in November of 2022 for 2023. I have that linked up in my bio. It's all recorded. And then I do a more specific month ahead for my patrons of the ASAP horoscopes. By the way, ASAP does not mean fast. It means the Awake Space Astrology podcast. Just so you know. So if you were expecting them quickly, no. It means Awake Space Astrology podcast. Because that makes ASAP. I had a podcast for 2 years before I realized what my own acronym was. But yeah. What's next for him? Well, he has to be arraigned. There's also going to be more indictments. These are not the only ones. So this is from New York. Georgia still has some, and then he'll have federal indictments as well. As far as jail time, I do see him facing convictions. I just don't know that he lives to see jail time served. Now, that could be he keels over before he ever sees jail, or it could be he has so many sentences that stack up he can't live to see the end of them. It could go either way. So, but he might kill over before. I mean, partly it's his age. His health is not good. There's a lot wrong with his health. And that's not wishful thinking. That's just very, very evident in the astrology. So, yeah. Yeah, I knew Biden would win. I don't know that he finishes out this presidency. I don't know that he'll be president again, though. I'm not going to give opinions on people's astrology or astrocartography placements, because I do this for a profession. If you want to make an appointment with me, I'll be glad to go through it with you, or you can take classes with me. So, Oh, right. He's the healthiest. Yeah, I'd kill for a time on DeSantis too, but there isn't one. So, no time for him. There's no times for a lot of the conservative politicians. Yeah, I was looking for hollies and I was looking for folies today. Man, I wish those guys would choke on popcorn. That's all I have to say. And they're not old. They're not old. They're not old. They're younger than me. They're just douchebags. The douchebaggery is outstanding. So some people are old and out of touch, but then we also have a bunch of control freaks with mommy issues. Mommy wasn't home for me. She was busy working and paying bills. Oh, you just caught up on the news headlines? Well, I think we could see violence because we have the full moon in Libra, and I've been talking about that. I've been talking about people seeking justice. And the full moon in Libra happens on April 5th/6th. And you have to remember, justice is perceptual based. It's subjective. So there are people who will seek justice in liberating him. He's their Messiah type delusional thing. Other people are going to be seeking justice for gun reform. Other people are going to be seeking justice for women's rights. Other people are going to be seeking justice for trans healthcare. Okay. And when I say women's rights, I include trans women in that because they're women. Okay. But trans healthcare is another issue. Gender affirming care is another issue. They're all related because it's all patriarchy trying to control people. So we'll see people standing up, but we will also see people who diametrically oppose that, because remember, Libra isn't about balance. It's about striking the balance. And sometimes you have opposing sides. So everybody's going to be up in arms. So we could see violence on the 6th. You know, we could. Certainly people are going to be in their fields. It's going to be really loud online. There's some big energy on that. Yeah. You know, I think things are worth fighting for if you can actually see a win. And you know what the win will be. But I think that fighting without understanding the objective and how to reach the objective is often a way to get people to expend energy quickly when there's a long game. So, what happens if you're Moon in Libra? You blow up. I'm a Moon in Libra too. You'll have your lunar return at some point. It happens every month, pumpkin. Full moon happens every month. Now this just happens to be the full moon in Libra. And so it depends. Like my lunar return happens, I don't know what, about 6 hours after or so. Mine happens after the full moon. The full moon's at 16 degrees. I'll make a video about it. I've just been really busy and I just haven't had time to make videos. Like literally by the time I have time, I'm like wiped out and going to bed. So, cause I have like a lot of projects going on right now. I also talked a little bit about it in the podcast. So you can always go listen to my podcast. But a lunar return just shows the theme of the month ahead. That's it. I'll make a walkthrough video on those as well. There's a lot of bad information, but really, my answers are usually sarcastic here on the lives. People are like, "What happens with this?" I'll be like, "You blow up, you keel over. That's it. You're finished." But it's not true. I'm just being a jerk. But yeah, it depends. I don't know. The eclipse in October, though, is right on my moon. I was like, even I sit there giving that a side eye. I'm like, side eye. Eclipse on my moon. That better be good. Probably will be. I'm not a world leader, so I'm not all that worried about it. Your bot, check your chart. I don't know what your astrological reading level is, so would checking your chart help you? If you were checking it. You don't have to say yes. Just because your boss wants you back doesn't mean you have to say yes. I understood you meant astrological chart. It depends. If you don't want to, like, why did you leave? If you left because you didn't like it there, why would you go back? That's like an ex-boyfriend saying, well, baby, I can't get you out of my mind. Why don't you come back to me, baby? And you're like, well, you cheated on me and you ate all of my ice cream all the time. But since you want me, of course I'll come back. Why would you do that? Same with a boss. So did they pay you fairly? Did you get good bennies? Or did they overwork you and undercompensate you? If that was the case, why would you go back? It's like an ex. So now if they treated you really well and you just didn't like it, or you had other things you wanted to try and they were worth working for, feel into it. But yeah. Oh, see, there you go. Yeah. 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 Negotiate a higher salary, negotiate the terms of your employment. But I would say if you have to ask me where you look in your astrology chart, you don't have enough experience to make that kind of, I could tell you all kinds of places, but there's about 10 different factors you'd have to look at to make that assessment, to do it accurately. Astrology is not a dot-to-dot game. And 90% of what you see online, just because you can make a chart for free, interpretation takes time and study and experience to be good at interpretation. So it is not something that is self-study oriented. And 90% of what we see, can I check it? No, I do this professionally and I'm pretty booked up. I'm booked into May. So if you wanted a quick answer, no. No. No, I've been doing this for 3 decades. So I get why newer astrologers would do online readings on live streams and stuff. But yeah, so I do have appointments. You can check the link in my bio. Yeah, I have a link in my profile that takes you to my link page. I do professional readings 100%. You're welcome. I am thinking about doing a reading, like having people be able to like book on the website, and then we do like me reading you here on TikTok, but like the camera on while I'm talking to you, but it would be something people sign up for, if that makes sense. That would be easier. I can't manage multiple screens this way, so it would be like I'd have the camera on me while I was reading. So how can you tell the full moon is transiting? Well, where's Libra in your chart? You want to find 16 degrees Libra, and that's where the moon is transiting. I'll get the chart walkthrough up on YouTube. I already have it up for patrons right now. Yeah, so, okay, there you go. 8th house. There you go. Virgo, well, you have Saturn in the opposite sign as your sun, but it depends on the rest of your chart. But I have a visual walkthrough on the chart. I'll get it up on YouTube tonight. I already put it up for patrons, and that'll help you identify things. But you can also, if you look on my page here, I have a how to find the transits around your astrology chart video. I even use Magic School Bus music. For real. But yeah, go check the pin post on my page here, and I show you how to find the transits. Yeah, for me, it's not about gatekeeping. I mean, I do gatekeep some information, absolutely, because I think some information isn't meant to be given out in a wider scope because it can be misused and mishandled, and ethics are important. But at the same time, I'm glad to teach. I love teaching, right? So ooh, I'm excited. I can't wait to read for you. Thank you, Casey. Oh, gotta set a new goal. I'll just put the hand hearts. Did that work? It didn't work. Oh, it did work. Okay. my big three, I am a Cancer Sun, Libra Moon, Scorpio Rising. Did I already talk about Cancer, Mars moving into Cancer? I did a couple days ago, but I can talk about it now. I'm excited about it. I have Venus in Gemini, and I was like, oh my God. I think 90% of it being too long was because Gemini needs variety. So anybody with Gemini placements was like, this has been too damn long. It'll be a long time, like it'll be in May before that Mars gets to my Sun and my Mercury. So, but yeah. No, we're going to see a lot of the for your own good rhetoric out in the world with Mars and Cancer. There'll be a lot, we're protecting you people. A lot of talk about national security, the attempt of making policy at that. Unfortunately, also violence against women and children or committed by women and children. And sadly, I talked about that on the Sunday podcast. I recorded it Sunday. I released it Monday. So that was a sadness. There are things I really don't like being right about. We'll see more about women's healthcare, transgender issues, LGBTQ matters. And we'll see people organizing for their families too. But there's lots of different perspectives around that. It's contentious energy at a mundane level, but it's also very tenacious. If you have Mars and Cancer in your chart, that's not a bad thing. I don't like talking about exaltations and debilitations and falls and detriments and all that fun stuff, because I think it comes from a patriarchal lens, because they thought only this energy was good and this energy was bad. And I think that is a very binary way of looking at things. And honestly, I think it's really shallow. I think we can broaden our spectrum and understand that Mars is energy. And when it is in Cancer, it has a different quality to the action. So Mars is action. Cancer has a certain quality of that action. It can be very tenacious. Okay? It can be very clannish. You're my people, protecting my own people. That could be us deciding to protect our families. It can be nationalism on another level. It can be it could be related to food and nutrition and householding. We could look at the real estate markets in residential real estate, but also maybe some of the commercial real estate is up on deck. Although I really see commercial real estate more as a Taurus matter. But we also have, today we had Venus and Uranus in Taurus conjunct as well. So, yeah. Beautiful ring. Thank you. My little labradorite ring. Thank you. Hi there. No, I don't actually see the United States splitting apart, believe it or not. I think that's a Republican wet dream. That isn't going to happen. I just don't. I don't see it happening. I think we'll see restructuring over time, but I don't see a splitting or a civil war. There's a reason we have military bases all over the country. I don't think Trump's the only person who's going to be indicted over the next 6 months. I think there's going to be a lot of officials indicted. I talked about that in my patron-only podcast when I talked about him getting indicted by March. I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think that's some of why the GOP currently is trying to push against our rights. I think they're trying to erode our rights before the DOJ can finish doing its job. Yeah. Hey, Dwabbit. How you doing? How you feeling? The readings I do, hon, are booked through the link in my bio because I'm a professional astrologer and I only take readings through bookings. So you feel free to sign up there. If your life feels like a mess and you have no way to go. So here's the deal. Sometimes there is no place to go in the moment except to get quiet and stop fighting it. sometimes the only thing we could do is take a deep breath and wait and listen. Listen to that still small voice. Listen to that little bit of inspiration. Trying to make the big moves or fighting against the uncertainty doesn't help. Okay? So taking a big deep breath, grounding in. You can even sit on the floor and just take a minute. Breathe. Like deep breathe. Not just once, not just twice, like 10 times, and not hyperventilating, okay? But just bring the energy in. If things are falling apart, it's because stuff is moving out of the way for you to kind of come into something else. But the more you fight and try to hold on to stuff, the more it's going to slip out of your grasp. It sounds like a Pluto transit. And I've been through it. I get it. Yep, sometimes, because, if you're trying to float, you can't. Sometimes you just got to relax. And then you'll be able to find a direction. You got to stop looking for the perfect solution and go, where's the energy taking me? Okay. What's actually working? Maybe it means you get a job, as a server or a barista or delivering newspapers or whatever it is. And that leads to the next step. Maybe you meet somebody and they offer you something, or, but certainly fighting against the current is not going to help. In fact, it just is harder. So just described your week. Yeah. It's not, like I said, it sounds like a Pluto transit. It's really hard, especially like when it's everything you really worked for and it all starts to fall apart and you're like, what the hell? And it's just bring the energy down. But yeah, if you want a reading, you just go ahead and book through the link in my bio. And in fact, right now, I'm celebrating having called the indictment of Donald Trump. Back in June of 2022, I said by March of 2023, he would be indicted. I'm not going to lie. It was coming down to the wire. And I was like, I see it in the astrology. Why isn't it being announced? So I'm celebrating by offering non-patrons. If you're not a patron, if you're a patron, you get better discounts. But if you're not a patron and you don't want to be a patron, you can save 20% on bookings and workshops. I've got a full moon workshop coming up this Sunday. It's a workshop and ceremony. So I do a workshop in the beginning where I talk about how the full moon is going to impact us on a collective level, on an individual level through the houses. And I explain that part during it. And then I end the recording. And then I take questions unrecorded because that makes it safer for personal questions to be asked. And then we start the recording again for the guided meditation. And I don't put that out there for anybody other than attendees. Even if you can't make it, if you registered, you get the recordings. But I don't put those up for sale as like evergreen content. So you can save 20% if you're not a patron. Patrons get 50% off that. But if you're not a patron, you can save 20% by using the code. Hang on a second. There we go. Save. Save 20%. There we go. Thank you. Right? And on the top 3% of podcasts, we just slid right over the top into that, which is super cool. We're not that far off of getting into the top 1% of podcasts globally in any category. You have to get 3979. So 3,979 listens within 7 days of an episode dropping. We're at 2,000 now, 4 days in. So it could happen. We could get there. It's conceivable. I didn't know the numbers were that low to make it there. So it's really exciting. Now, obviously, there's a huge difference between like Joe Rogan and the bottom of that 1%. I'm okay at being at the bottom of 1%. I'm okay at being at the 3%. I was really jazzed to being at the 5% of podcasts globally. Are you kidding? I had no idea. So I'm super excited. And now that I have the cool mic, I'm going to put us in for like competitions. Like awards. So if I put myself in for like a People's Choice Award, would you guys vote for me? Please. I have to do it. I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it. I want to put in for the 2024 awards. Yeah. It would be so cool, right? Okay, I'll do it. My friend who is an Emmy winner, he was like, you need to put in for awards. I was like, oh, yeah, I do. And he's like, yeah, awards really help. I'm like, well, you would know. But yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. I mean, it's not what makes the podcast, but I think it would be fun, don't you? So we'll just put in for fun and see what happens. So, but yeah. Oh, you'll hold me accountable. Okay. I know you will. You guys do. You guys do hold me accountable. What does he have an Emmy for? The visual effects for Gotham. He did the visual. He was on the team, and actually he supervised the visual effects for Gotham. Mm-hmm. I met him in a metaphysical store. Go figure. By the way, he's not into the woo-woo stuff, not really. But he was trying to look at, he knew a friend of mine. So my friend was teaching his first astrology class, and I was there kind of like training wheels. And this guy walked in with his best friend, and his best friend and my friend are good friends. And it just so happened that my friend Mark grew up in the Middle East, and I lived in the Middle East. And my friend was like, hey, you two should talk. And we started talking. He's like, I have a movie project. I'm you and everybody else in LA. And he showed me, and I really loved the premise of the project. And it was his personal project. And I was really excited about it because it wasn't just typical tropes. He was raised in the Middle East, but he's Filipino by nationality and ethnicity. And he did an urban fantasy including some Filipino folklore. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. We need representation of all kinds and for all people. That's a really good thing. And we just had a great conversation. He was like, so do you know about this woo-woo stuff? I'm like, yeah, I know about this woo-woo stuff. And he goes, could you teach our actress how to do tarot cards? And I was like, for the screen? Yeah. Yeah, sure, I can. So I got to go to the micro short filming and teach the actress how to like comically pull the cards. And then I became a producer on the longer short film, which was cool. Like, I have never been into film and television, so this is why it happened. And then I became part of his comic book project, and I got to write the introduction in the second issue, which was super fun. So, as the anthropologist. So, and I'll probably be at Comic-Con with him in July. So super fun. Super fun. So the universe and his whole project, he's so funny because he isn't into woo-woo, and he's like, but there's still magic around this project. People are just drawn in, and I meet him in the weirdest ways. And I was like, yeah, Mark. But yeah, no, he's very cool. Very talented. I always meet interesting people wherever I go, and I think you're just as interesting as I think he is, to be honest. I find people fascinating. Right? I've been to Comic-Cons, like as an attendee, and other conventions, but this one, I'll be at his like booth. So he asked if I'd like read tarot. So I'll dress up. I'll cosplay as a fortune teller. It's kind of like when I used to be a mom for Halloween. I can do the aesthetic. But yeah. But wouldn't that be funny? Oh, I'm cosplaying a fortune teller. Here, let me tell you a fortune. Pew. Which I read cards before I was an astrologer. I started reading tarot as a teenager. So, but I freaked myself out because I was accurate and it was scary. I didn't have like a teacher for that. Go full Stevie Nicks. I actually have the clothes to do it. If I'm not in my sweats, I'm in my velvet and velour. So I've been at cons. Well, and I want to have an event for us, right? Oh, you were Stevie Nicks for Halloween last year? I love that. Yeah, you aren't that far away. I do want to have an event. I was thinking of doing like a pop-up, maybe. Like I was thinking, I don't so much want to do like a con, but I was thinking like an astrology salon. Think like comfy sitting space and having astrological discussions and brandy or bourbon or your bevy of choice. I mean, you can drink matcha or kefir or whatever you want to drink. I don't care, but I'm going to have bourbon and talk astrology. That's what I want to do. Right? Right? I should do something at a lounge. And then I could also be a lounge singer. Do you think they would let us? Do you think they would be like, fly me to the moon and let me play amongst the stars. Hey, you're in the first row. How you doing? I bet you're a Sagittarius rising. See? I have the routine all worked out. Right? I'm fun to hang out with. But I will sing to you if you're in the bathroom. I can be a silly goose. I can be very serious, but I can also be very silly. And I can be seriously silly at the same time. I'm feeling it. Colin Trump's indictment was like, I needed that to happen on time. I was like, that's a make or break prediction. So thank you for celebrating with me, guys. That's been really cool. I've been really proud of that. And yeah. Right? Right? Oh, with the new app. Yeah, I could. Right? Astrology lullabies. That would be funny. The new mic is phenomenal. I don't know if I have enough dead space. I mean, I suppose I could record in my closet. But oh, thank you. Right? Congratulations to everybody. Covers for the zodiac signs, right? Astrology karaoke. I love that. That would be fun if we did that. You know, and my hope is to have, I'm looking at by the end of this year or early next year, purchasing, you know, at least a house with some property. And if I do that, then I might do like little mini events or something like that. I don't know. I haven't decided. You know, I might just do them at like, I might do them at like hotels and stuff. Because when you do something like I do, it's kind of like, I know I have this core group of people that I really love and care about, and I know they'd never do anything, but there's also people kind of on the extremes who can get a little weird. We don't need any John Hinckleys, right? But I might just do some stuff at hotels, like rent ballrooms and stuff like that, and set it up. Not so much like, I've been thinking a lot about how I would do events, you know, and Q&As. And I really like interactive things, like, you know, I mean, I can do a lecture and I don't mind that, but I get fueled by interaction. So Green Man and I would be all over that. I love that, right? That's cool. You guys are awesome. Come to the East Coast. I could. I don't know. I don't have great astrocartography on the East Coast. I'd go to Vermont just so I could see if I could run into Bernie. He'd probably be like, "Oh, get away from me." Yeah. I've been through the East Coast, like through airports and stuff, but Vermont would be cool. Maybe, I don't know. No, astrocartography is not included in natal readings. I'll include it in astro energies or in career readings, but not in natal readings. Natal readings tell you about you, but not looking at places where else you could be. Mm-hmm. Well, if they block their question, it's because we have certain things blocked on here because I said so. Astrocartography is it's basically where Jim Lewis is the person who invented astrocartography, basically laying out the lines and aspects and midpoints from a relocated chart onto a map. Oh, did you ask? Trump is a blocked word. That's why. I blocked that. I added that because we were getting mega people. What did you want to know about the prediction? You have to remember, I get all sorts. I get all kinds. Hey guys, keep tapping the screen, please. Oh, he'll most certainly be convicted. Now, of how many different charges will be another story. Will he do jail time? I've talked about this. I've talked about this in the patron only podcast episode I made in June of 2022. Yeah. Yes. We can just call him Mr. Indicted. I think he may face there's a couple of things. When I was looking back in June, I wasn't sure he would see jail time or live to see it. But if he has many, many consecutive sentences, so maybe he gets like 200 years in jail, he's not going to live to see the 200 years. You know what I'm saying? So, but he will never be president again. I've made that statement as well. I don't care if he runs for president. He will never be president again. And I stand on that. I'm more firm in that prediction than I was about him being indicted by March. You know, he will never be president again. Now, again, will he see jail time? I don't know if he lives through it. I know he will be convicted. Of what? Who knows? I don't know which charges will hold, you know. So he's being arraigned for the first bit in New York. Georgia still has to, you know, charge him and indict him. And then there's the federal indictments. I think the list is long. But he's also not the only problem. We need a bunch of other people held. But I think it'll be the results, because I think, you know, there's no way he's not going to roll over on other people. You know, he's going to scream like a piggy. Okay? So there's going to be a whole lot of it. Now, they're going to have to wade through what they can believe too, right? But then there's going to be a whole lot of there's going to be dominoes that fall. And I talked about that in the patron only podcast as well. And all patrons get access to that. It's the pinned post in my Patreon. So whether you're $5 a month or you're $33 a month or $55 a month, you all get access to that. So Mm-hmm. Oh, totally going to throw people under the bus. Well, his kids are rolling on him, and I called that in my predictions. He won't roll on his daughter because he's already said that she doesn't go to jail because that's his age group. But yeah, they'll roll on each other. They're a bunch of rats. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Oh, we got 122. Thank you for being 122. That was exciting. That's my very favorite number, 122. But yeah, I think we should do an astrology lounge with karaoke songs. Blue moon, you saw me standing alone. No, I don't think he killed his ex-wife. No, when I looked at her chart, it really looked like she had an accident. She had bad mobility issues. Now, he could have exploited her death big time, but I do not see that he killed his wife. He would have killed her before. She already had mobility issues. What do I think of our economy going forward? Well, you think it's going to be any good anytime soon? What are your predictions? Nothing good. How's that? It's a total global economic restructuring. But we're not getting rid of cash. We're not getting rid of fiat. We're not getting rid of crypto. There's other restructuring that has to happen. The biggest problem we have is food supply right now. That's why I've been telling people to garden indoors. You really want to go listen to my podcast. If you haven't listened to my podcast, the Awake Space Astrology podcast, you can find it linked in my bio. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm everywhere. The Awake Space Astrology podcast. I talk about this stuff all the time because it's really serious. You want to be growing as much food as you can. You can't grow everything, obviously. We've got a rice crisis. Okay. California had drought and then flooding, and so the harvests are really, really hosed. You really want to make sure your pantries are well stocked, guys. So the Restrict Act, we need to fight that. We just had a letter writing and phone banking activity in our Discord, the Awake Space Astrology Discord. I'll be sending out links to patrons and templates that they can use to get a hold of theirs. It's a power grab and it's an erosion of our rights. I've talked about that. I talked about that on my podcast and how it plays into the Pluto and Aquarius era. I don't think it'll pass, but it bothers me. It has bipartisan support because it is the worst erosion of our rights. It's 10 times worse than the Patriot Act. And so you really, really need to call or write your representatives, your senators, the president. Don't worry if you don't think it's going to be read. They are read and they are tallied. They are summarized. They are counted. So write and call. Leave a voicemail. They do have to deal with that. So they need overwhelming. This has nothing to do with protecting us from anything. That is a massive erosion of rights. Why are they doing this? Well, power. Power. A lot of people are working for themselves or in small groups or workers' co-ops now. And it's really hard to control independent people, and they hold the cash. The wealthier debt leverage, the people hold the cash. So it's why they've made it hard that, it's a power grab. We're watching a billionaire war. And if people can actually organize both, not just politically, but economically, then we become a threat. I'm not going to touch on BRICS right now. We would be better off having a singular world organization, but until we make the necessary social restructurings, that won't happen. We're not ready for that on any level. Grow lights would be good. Oh my goodness. That's not good. Damn. Leafy greens. Leafy greens are easy. Microgreens. Legumes for protein. Potatoes for starches. Depends on your diet. Depends on where you live. Thank you. Thank you very much. You left and went to a community bank. It's been hairy though. Oh man, I'm glad. I'm glad. Keep going though. Keep going because he has good transits. Don't buy into what people are saying. You know, those countries also are what are manufacturing things that we have used. So there's a trade imbalance. It hurts them as much as it hurts us. How will what impact elections? The indictment? Why would it impact elections at all? I don't know. He's not running for president. Even if he is, he ain't going to win. We don't even know who's running yet. We're not even close to that. Don't worry about that. Worry about your freaking local elections. Stop making the president the biggest deal in the world because the president isn't the biggest deal in the world. You know who the biggest pains of the asses are? State governments. State governments who are banning women's rights. State governments. State governments. Okay. So while we're all watching, we have to look at all levels. Look at your local level. Run for fucking office. We look similar. Are you Scorpio rising? Are you a Rivers? If you're from the De La Riviere family, comment ça va? Or a Carey. If you're of the Midwest Carey people from Ireland. But I don't look a whole lot like them. I look more like the Rivers. Or the Alvisos. I can't watch your profile picture because I'm blind, hun. But I can try. Hang on. Oh, that's funny. There you go. Yep, there you go. No, I don't talk about specific regions too much. I did talk a little bit about the Southwest, or not Southwest, but like the Gulf and weather for this next couple of days. Like I do this full time, not just for leisure. I don't have a lot of time to look at everybody, you know, all the local charts. I just don't. I mostly, and I'm not going to lie, I mostly look at the West Coast because that's where my family is. So I got a kid up north. I got a kid not far from me. But I do look at the mountain states a little bit because my mom and dad are in Wyoming. And I'll peek in on Texas. But I'm not going to lie. It gets demoralizing looking at Texas. And I know you live there, and I'm sorry. But you guys need to channel Ann Richards, God damn it. I want all of you to hold a seance. And I want you to channel Ann Richards. She was a powerhouse. She was an amazing woman. She was one of my idols when I was a teenager. Ann Richards was solid. Was she perfect? No, but she was a hell of a lot better than that namby-pamby excuse for a man you got as governor now. Channel Ann Richards. Right? Oh my God. Ann, she's rolling in her grave. Channel her. I want you guys to hold a seance. You should just hold a seance. Do it in Austin. Go to Austin, hold a seance. Yeah. Channel Ann Richards. Frickin' Bush. He is, everybody, gets really upset at 2016, but honestly, it was Bush era that just fucked us over entirely. That was their linchpin in their plan. I have no thoughts about bricks or CBDCs. None right now. I haven't done enough research. What would channeling do? Scare the fuck out of the conservative Christians. That's what it would do. But if y'all channeled some of her energy, it'd give you the hooch spot to win. I know those people are crazy, but it takes crazy to take out crazy. I used to go to Texas to visit some friends. Now my family are colonizers. I felt guilty about that as a kid. And so every time I'd go, and my family's been in Oregon for a really, really long time. I was the 6th generation from my town. And whenever I'd go to Austin, I used to tell my friends, wow, it's really cool to be back east. And they'd be like, what? I'd be like, yeah, it's really cool to be back east. Oh, don't Wild West me. I'll show you Wild West. And not everything's bigger in Texas. You got itty bitty tiny trees, except for Wimberley, and those trees are beautiful. You got itty bitty tiny spitty things called rivers, and your mountains ain't nothing. So, but it's a hell of a big state. And there's a lot of people with big hearts. Oh, thank you. I love Wimberley. Crunchy times call for crunchy measures. I love that. There you go. Hey, Montana. Now that's a beautiful state. I've driven all through Montana because one of my trips to Texas, I couldn't drive through from Seattle to down California and across that way. I had to go the northern route, and I stopped in Wyoming where my parents are retired. And man, Montana's pretty. And I spent quite a bit of time in Billings when my dad was sent to the hospital there in 2021. There's a lot of wild rabbits. They're not really wild rabbits. They're like domesticated rabbits that people have let go and then bred. All over Billings, Montana. I know the hospital really, really well. It is big sky country. Yeah. I've also driven through the wind, right? There was a trip, I was heading back to Washington. And that was the trip from Austin. And I did 1,000 miles. I hit from Laramie Wyoming, all the way to Coeur d'Alene, because my son, who was 17, if I'd been with my daughter, she would have been, Mom, we're in Missoula, we're going to rest for the night. My son was like, Mom, you can do anything. I was like, all right. But I was, half of that, I was driving against the wind, and it was, oh my God, the gusts were terrible. I had to teach in Portland in like 2 days, so I was trying to bust tracks, because with my Sagittarius Mars, I was like, sure, I can do all the things. Right? Your mom is from Idaho. Oh, that was a crazy drive down that mountain pass. I would imagine it's really hard. Montana and Wyoming both. Oh, thank you so much. My work is important. You have helped. Oh, gratitude to you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here for you. Yeah. Oh, my son, great motivator. Yeah. The next day I was like, next time, I'm like, we can stay in a motel, or I think I can make it. Don't listen to the, I think I can make it. I'm really tired. It's like being drunk. You just say, Mom, you need to sleep. And I'll go, oh, okay. My daughter would have been like, are you crazy? She's the double Virgo. She'd be like, no, we're stopping. No, the 5 planets in Gemini was like, I believe in you. It was a great trip, though. That was 2014. So long ago. Almost 10 years ago. Oh, time goes fast. Time goes fast. You know, I was just looking at a little... You want to... Okay, I'm going to embarrass my son because he's on TikTok, but... Let me see if I can find it. It'll take me a minute, so bear with me while I look for this little picture. But I'll show you a Taurus rising. It'll take me forever to get back here. So, like, I should have favorited it. Give me a second. Take me a minute. Oh my goodness. Hang on. Oh my God, I'm never going to find it now. Why is it you can find things on accident and you can never find them on purpose? I have like a jillion pictures on my phone. Hang on. A lot of them are of Malcolm. All right, I'm getting bored. If I'm getting bored, you're getting bored. Goodness sakes. Well, here. This is a very old picture, but this is the double Virgo, and that is the Taurus rising quintuple Gemini. So, right? So I got Mercury ruled kids. You see that Taurus rising head. It was 13 centimeters when he was born, just saying. But those bright, shining eyes, that's the Mercury ruled. But yeah, so I had my double Virgo with the Spice Girls dress, right? And my little 5 planets in Gemini, Taurus rising. So those are my prides and joys. They're all grown up now. That was a long time ago. That would have been, oh gosh. I don't think he was even a year older. I think he was maybe 6 or 7 months old. So she was 3, he was 7 months old. But yeah. Oh no, I don't. I have grand dogs. I do not have grandbabies. I'm okay with that. No, I think it is really hard to have kids right now. It was hard enough to have kids when I had kids. So, yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. No. The double Virgo actually does want kids. It's just not good timing. And yes, I've been grandma to dogs since she was 19. And I spoiled them rotten. But yeah, so. No, my kids are, neither one of them are interested in astrology. Do you like to do all the stuff your parents does? No. No, they know enough to know whether it's real or not. And if they have a big question, they come to me, but they've never wanted to learn it. Yeah. Right? Oh, I reached 60K likes. Thank you, guys. There's no believing in astrology. It just is. Like I said, they'll ask me questions. Right, exactly. Your dad fixes watches. You don't. You don't need to. Yeah, exactly. So they're aware of astrology, and again, they know enough. My daughter will look at something and she's like, what do you think? My son too. When they met their special person, there was a, Mom, can you look at this person's chart? And I knew that was somebody that was special for them, because if they were just dating, they didn't, like, what do you think of this? I'm like, do you want my honest opinion? But I always figured, before I ever looked at it, I was like, well, I know there's going to be good synastry, or at least attraction, because they liked him enough to get the birth information. So, but yeah. But yeah. Well, guys, I've been on for quite a while, and it was exciting to celebrate with you. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for celebrating the correct prediction. I feel so relieved now that that's come out, and it actually happened in March. Damn it. Man, that was cutting it close. I was like, come on. I'm like, trust the astrology. But yeah. Give Malcolm, I will. He's kind of mad at me because I didn't share my dinner, but I cooked him his own. So. Oh, thank you. Right? Big hugs, everybody. Much love. Take care.